The navigation cell door opened, and Denishku walked in with Rick at his heels. "I'm just saying," the Texan said. "Dogs are the best animals in the entire universe." "And I do not understand how you can form such an absolute opinion with so little data. You have never met the vast majority of animals in the universe." "You've never met a dog." Denishku sent Rick a glare, then turned to the projection screen as they came to a stop. "Ayek, display available imagery on the projection panel. Do we have any identification?" "My scans show the vessel to be an 82% match to other Obda-Ure crafts we have encountered. No armament data retrievable," the adaptive interface said, appearing beside the screen. "Imagery rendering now." An ovoid ship with wide, curved wings and a cluster of turbines at the back generated on the projection panel. "What is that thing?" Elise asked as she and Hasman entered the navigation cell, followed by Temvu. "Ayek says it's an Obda-Ure ship," Denishku said. He looked over his shoulder, then his eyebrows rose. Did you come straight from the fitness cell?" "What gave it away?" Elise laughed, then glanced down at her snug, spandex-like tank top and pants. "It's not like we can practice Kalpeut by osmosis, Denny." "She speaks the truth," agreed Hasman. "Indeed." Temvu crossed his arms. Clearing his throat, the head officer nodded and turned back to the screen. "Of course. Ayek, hail them." Attempting hails. "Oh, Elise." Elise spun around at the sound of her name to find Hadrol, and Mavner striding in. Tajim a few steps behind. "What?" "You're looking good," Hadrol continued. "Really good." Color flared hot in her cheeks as the she-human giggled and tried to suppress the flattered smile. "Thanks." Denishku turned back to face them with a disgruntled scowl. However, before he could protest their conversation, Ayek announced, "Incoming reply to hails, audio and visual." "Accept transmission. Everyone else, step out of view," ordered the head officer. The thin figures of Noholik and Nabaru materialized on the projection panel. The siblings traded sly glances, then refocused on Denishku. "Salutations," the head officer crossed his arms and squinted at the pair. "Salutations, Trenjlu," Nohalek returned. Both of the Obda-Ure's eyes flashed white. "A pair of Obda-Ures. Why am I not surprised? Tell me, why have you joined our hyper-interstellar travel stream?" Nabaru sashayed closer to the camera. "Bedroom walls do not have the best stories." The crew out of view on Riav traded confused glances. Scoffing, Nohalek pulled Nabaru back to his side. "What we want, Topasean, is for you to surrender yourself to us." "Why would I do that?" He looked past the Obda-Ures. A pair of Kukaran guards stood stiffly in the background, but no one else was visible. "I do not even know who you are." "I am Lord Nohalek, and this is my sister, Lady Nabaru." "We will make our request politely once more, then we will escalate to more aggressive tactics." "Aggressive tactics? Oh, that doesn't sound very diplomatic. In fact, it sounds rather hostile. I do not believe my tactical officer would appreciate that." "I certainly would not," Rick said. He sauntered forward to stand beside Denishku. "Your defiance of the Obda-Ure Imperium will be your downfall, Trenjlu." "We'll take our chances. Nolly, y'all should just go back to whatever dark, abysmal corner of the universe y'all come from. My guess, a radiated cesspool somewhere." Denishku stared over at Rick. "Feeling brazen this Rin?" Shrugging, Rick glanced between the Obda-Ures and the Topasean. "Maybe a little bit." He pinched his right thumb and forefinger close together. "If you will not comply willingly, then we will force you to submit." Nohalek narrowed his eyes while he straightened to make himself as tall as possible. If everything was pretty, it would make the dolly's head spin. Nabaru giggled and wound some glossy black hair around her finger. They might spin off. Then you'd have to put them on again. She ran her long fingers around her slender throat and deliberately blinked her long lashes in slow, enticing intervals. Hadrol grunted in disapproval as the rest of the crew shifted on their feet and traded glances. These dollies won't get their heads reattached, sister. Nohalek wrapped his arm around Nabaru's, drawing her back to himself. Are they bad dollies? She asked, looking over at him. He bumped her nose with his. Very bad dollies. Will you dress them for me? With pleasure. She smiled over at Danishku and Rick, and the screen went black. Communication terminated, Ayak announced. What was that? Elise shouted at the projection panel. Disturbing as Krasnu. With a grimace, Rick glanced at Hadrol. He said they were siblings, didn't he? They are the twins, Nohalek and Nabaru. Hadrol stepped forward, rubbing the back of his neck. They are currently some of the most prominent twins in the Imperium. Their notoriety, as you might guess, is largely due to their two most defining attributes. One being that she's a few bananas short of a fruit basket. Rick gestured wildly with his hands. If that is a way of saying she is Plux, then I must agree with you, Danishku said. But what did it mean? Tajim asked from the back of the group. Wait. Elise looked back at Hadrol. What's the second thing they're known for? Sir, we are being targeted, announced Ayak. Hadrol pointed at the adaptive interface. Being impulsive and unpredictable. The Abda Ure vessel is arming weapons. Danishku remained stationary while the crew scattered to the consoles. Rick and Temvu moved to the tactical console, and Tajim manned the operations console. Hasman stayed at the main console while Elise, Mavner, and Hadrol stepped back. As everyone skidded to a stop at their station, Danishku called out commands. Clark and Ioadni activate the deflector shield. Nazul, monitor systems. Maximize defenses. Freyor, monitor communications. I want to know if they make any attempt to transmit anything. Deflector shields activated, Rick said, patting the console. Very good. Ayak, render the trajectory map on the holographic display. Danishku moved forward toward the holographic console. Rendering now. The map materialized, showing Riav with the Abda Ure ship not far behind. Should we accelerate? No. It will simply match us for speed. Instead, I want Riav to drop out of our current travel stream. Turn 32% to starboard and initiate a new travel stream. Once established, accelerate to Hejek 14. Do so on my mark. Understood, sir. Riav is ready. Brace yourselves, everyone, the head officer said. Even with the dampeners, this could be turbulent. Ayak, notify Uzvaksin and the councilman. Yes, sir. Notifying Consultant Uzvaksin and Councilman Previt Mujaj. Weapons fire! Rick and Temvu were hunched over the tactical console. Looks like laser fire. Deflector shield taking minimal damage. They are likely testing our ship's abilities, Danishku glanced at Tajim. Systems within acceptable parameters? Yes, sir. Tajim nodded, but her eyes never left the console. Ayak. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The internal lights flashed, then everyone lurched forward as Riav abruptly dropped from the hyper-interstellar stream. She spun around so fast that the inertial dampeners did little to stabilize the crew. Once aligned with her new course destination, the Barthene immediately prepared to reinitialize a hyper-interstellar travel stream. The Abda Ure vessel is intercepting our location, Ayak reported. The red dot representative of the Abda Ure ship blinked on the holographic map, quickly closing on Riav's location. So, the head officer turned from the map to Tajim. How long until we can initialize hyper-interstellar travel? 40 lensens, she said, as she typed into the console, trying to redistribute power to reduce charge time. Secondary vessel detected, Ayak said. A smaller red dot appeared beside the Abda-Ure craft. Elise stepped toward the holographic display, Hadrol beside her. Where did that come from? From the Abda-Ure vessel, Ayak answered. Scans indicate it matches the larger craft's engine signature by 97%. It appears to be an assault flyer. Both ships are targeting us. Clark, Dinishku called. Implement deflector shield, grid alignment, randomization. You got it, boss. Implementing now. Temvu, take the shield directional fortification control. Temvu began to type alongside Rick. As the randomization came online, a barrage of lasers and torpedoes slammed into the shield. The Barthin shuddered, but remained stable. With an unhappy sigh, the head officer paced in front of his chair. Return fire with lasers and electromagnetic pulses at their engines. Returning fire, Temvu replied. On the console, his fingers pounded out sequences. Clark, status of our shield. Dinishku stood behind the head officer chair watching Rick and Temvu work. We've taken some damage. We're down to 88%. The alignment randomization is slowing degradation. Lasers and electromagnetic pulses do not seem to be having much effect on either enemy shield, Tajim announced. I did not expect them to. The Abda-Ure ship's fluctuating grid oscillations have proven a consistent complication. 20 lensens to initialization of hyper-interstellar travel, Tajim added, still typing. I cannot reallocate any additional power without routing from the shield and the electromagnetic pulse. Sir, Ayak spoke up. There is another ship on our radar. Eda Muvek, Dinishku grumbled between his teeth. Can you identify it? Scans indicate it is the vessel associated with Sijner Ket. You've got to be joking, Elise said. She stared at the projection panel, her eyes wide as the battered, angular ship appeared. Incoming transmission, audio and visual, the adaptive interface reported. Accept transmission, Dinishku said. He centered himself in front of the screen. Instantly, Sijner Ket's face replaced his ship. His gray eyes were cold, and his mouth formed a straight, hard line. Salutations, Barthin crew. Oh, now it's a party, ain't it? Rick shouted from the tactical console. The Abda-Ure vessel is attempting to contact Ket, Hasman said, tapping on the main console. Crack. Who's that bullzoo? Ket asked. He frowned and clacked at his dashboard. Nohalek's assault flyer shifted to fly between Ket's craft and Riav. The bounty hunter glared at Dinishku. Is this a trick? A trick? The head officer scoffed and held his hands up, palms open. What kind of trick? We are under fire. The navigation cell opened, and both Zertajur and Kajnar rushed into the room. What the crack is going on? The dumb Haon shouted. When she saw the bounty hunter on the screen, she stopped. Ugh! A gun with his ugly face? Where have you two been? Elise demanded. I was praying, Kojnar answered. He strode past Elise to stand beside Hasman, who was still bent over the main navigation console. Elise turned her attention to Zertajur. The Domhian offered up a guilty smile. I wasn't praying. Tell me, Zuhuri, who would you rather have hunting you? Me or this other Freljik? Ket's expression remained solemn and agitated. You know, it is a difficult choice. Dinishku looked again to Tajim. 4 lensens. 3, 2, 1. Lifting her eyes, the head engineer nodded affirmation. Ket, I think I will let the two of you figure it out. Dinishku grinned and let his hands drop. Ayak, initiate hyper-interstellar travel now. Nohalek fired at the Barthin again, but before more than a couple shots could hit, Riav vanished in a flash of light. Ket moved to chase after Riav, but before he could enter an interstellar travel stream, Nohalek's assault flyer's torpedoes struck his shields, just as just as a residual electromagnetic wave from Riav rolled over him. The shield instantly deteriorated, and within moments the bounty hunter's ship exploded. As Ket's vessel burst apart, debris flew in all directions. Nohalek, who was positioned mere lengths away, swerved to dodge the burning chunks that soared past him. One of the turbines, however, ricocheted off a larger exterior plate that had just been part of a wing. It spun right through Nohalek's high-velocity deflector shield and smashed into the core of the small craft. Aboard the larger Abda-Ure vessel, Nabaru stared in stupefied horror at the cascade of explosions. Her eyes and veins flashed white, and then a tear rolled down her cheek. "Bad dollies," she muttered. "Bad dollies dressed with no place to play. Bad dollies don't deserve pretty stars. Bad dollies take Nohalek away. Bad dollies will suffer their scars." "Are you certain?" Dinishku asked. He leaned on the head officer chair, gripping the back. "Yes, sir," Ayak replied. "The vessel of Sijner Ket abruptly terminated directly after the assault pod discharged weapons." "What is the status of the Abda-Ure crafts?" "The assault pod's engine signature also abruptly terminated shortly after the destruction of Sijner Ket's vessel." Ayak gestured at the holographic display, which updated as she spoke. "The larger Abda-Ure craft is still operational." Dinishku groaned and ran his fingers through his chaotic brown hair. "Hell Firil. What a Virat disaster. Not only did we manage to eliminate the bounty hunter hired by the peace service, but we also destroyed another Abda-Ure." The head officer turned to the crew, still lingering at their stations. "Clark, Nuzul, Freyor. Status reports."